Welcome to Woo New, a show that explores healing and the expansion of our consciousness.
Where we explore all kinds of different energy modalities, therapies, and ideas that bring us closer to our collective liberation.
I'm Ellen, and I'm a journey work guide.
I'm Sam, and I am an integrative energy therapist.
And together, we are the co-creators of We Are All Daughters,
a quantum healing space dedicated to helping us reconnect to ourselves, our bodies, each other, and the universe. So today is going to be a really special episode. We're so happy to have Jamie Harb with us. We have actually interviewed Jamie before. She's a Reiki master teacher and intuitive energy healer. If you haven't heard that episode, it's episode 67 called Intuitive Energy Healing. And, Jamie and I's story is so funny because it was sort of like we came together and our paths crossed just by almost like divine intervention. And since then, Jamie and I have been trading energy sessions on one another and really learning from each other and expanding our practices. And a couple months ago, we had this really special session where Jamie started doing spiritual regression therapy on me, or SRT, and I had never experienced that before. It was so beautiful, and I know this is a really new modality that both Ellen and I are still very much learning about almost from the beginning right now. So we're so grateful to have you here with us, Jamie. Thank you so much for your time, and we're so excited to talk to you about SRT.
Yay. I know nothing at all. So I'm really, really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be on your podcast again. I really appreciate the invite.
Yeah, of course. So for those of us like Ellen and I who are still very much learning about SRT from the very beginning, why don't you start by telling us how you started practicing SRT and how you found it, and sort of help us understand more about what SRT actually is as a modality?
Sure. So SRT is called spiritual response therapy.
I said it wrong.
Oh, yeah, it's okay. It was developed by a gentleman named Robert Dietzler, and it's working with a pendulum and charts, and it's used basically to research the subconscious mind and your Akashic soul records to clear and release limiting beliefs and things that can block you. You know, you can have blocks to health, blocks to prosperity, types of things like that, because so basically, souls will kind of accumulate negative and positive energies based on their experiences, their beliefs, their choices. And if these types of things aren't cleared out during that life, say, it just sticks with the soul. It's almost like a program, right? It's just running in the background. And so that can kind of color your belief systems or the way that things work in this life, so it can cause some chaos, sometimes positive or, negatively. So it's just a really interesting modality. And I actually found out about it a long time ago when I started my Reiki journey. I was in New York City, and I was going to a lady who's a shaman, and I was getting Reiki energy done with her. And she had a modality called SRT. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I'm going to try it. And I was still kind of skeptical about the whole like energy work thing and all of the stuff. And so the first session I did was virtual. And I was like, this is super weird. I don't know how this even works. Like she's just doing this over the phone, and she was talking extremely fast. And I was like trying to write everything down, but I was having kind of like some issues with my ex-boyfriend of the time, or my boyfriend of the time. And so there was a lot of like lives that we've had together that needed to be cleared out. But the most interesting thing that really kind of like hooked me was she had mentioned a couple different lives that I had, and she just goes really fast. So she'll be like, it was a past life. You are this, you have these energies. And, she kind of just gives you like a little bit of a rundown. And so I had one life where she said, I was a young woman and I was harmed by my husband. I was murdered by him. And then I had these specific energies. I think it was like hatred of men, alcoholism, like some other random like fear. And so she cleared that out. No big deal. The next life she'd mentioned, I was a child and I was harmed by the person who was supposed to love me. And that was really all the information I got. And so, I wrote it down. And then, of course, I was like, went to my friend or my ex-boyfriend. I'm like, you murdered me in all his lives. And I murdered you. And now I know why I am angry with you. Like, it was so funny. But I was like, okay, this actually has nothing to do with this. But the thing that really got me was like the next day, I went to like a little stone shop near my house. And next door was a place that had Reiki. And I was like, oh, Reiki, I want to learn this. I'm going to go in there and find out about the person who does Reiki and where she learned and get some information. And this little old, like chubby lady was eating cookies, playing solitaire, and like barefoot at this little table in the back. And I like started asking her some questions, and she was like, well, your last 3 years have been shit, huh? And I was like, oh, wow.
Damn.
Okay. What? And she starts telling me things about my life. And I was like, wait, what is happening? And so I was like, all right, well, do you have time? Because I want to get a reading from you. She was a medium psychic. And so she's like, yeah, sure. Come on back. So for 30 minutes, I sat with her and she gave me specific details about what Anjali, my shaman, had told me through the SRT. So like the life where I was a woman, she's like, your husband was Charles. It was 1827. You died at 24. I see you digging in the dirt with your fingers and he is yelling at you. Like he basically like beat me to death. And I was like, wait, what? Oh. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she was like, oh yeah. And then you had a life where you were this little girl. Your name was Anna. You were 4. I see you had really long red hair. And like, I see you being drugged across the floor by your hair. And you lived in an orphanage and the lady burned the orphanage down with everyone in it. And I was like, what? Oh, okay. So it was just so fascinating that I had 2 separate people in 2 separate states, nonetheless, basically tell me the exact same thing in like a 29-hour period. And I was like, whoa. Okay, so SRT is real, because if it wasn't, I don't like think this would have happened, And so I was like, this is super cool. And I was doing
Jamie,
it for a long time.
Yeah. Can I ask you real quick? Like, that in itself is just like, my mind is blown.
I
know.
The validation like that is so needed, Right? It's like that's happened to me before too, and it's like, BS, oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah. And then the universe is like, no, it's not.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, like, were they also identifying the people in your current life and how that sort of tracks to these old, past life relationships? Like, did you see sort of like, I guess, evidence of like the sort of challenges that you're experiencing in this physical life through these like past lives?
At that time I had no idea like the connection between it, but to tell you the honest truth, the main like part of that clearing was to clear it between me and the guy I was with. And so after that, things actually were a lot better, which was really interesting. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then I didn't do it for a really long time because I was like, whatever. I don't really think I need to do it. But sometimes though, like when you're clearing, they'll be like, oh, do I need to know who this person is in this lifetime? Mm-hmm. Right. And so like sometimes like maybe that the person of the orphanage, is one of my friends now. Right. And we're having issues. Right. So there's ways that you can go through and use it to clear energies between you and someone else, because maybe like you and Sam have had lives together. And so maybe there's like a disrupt between the two of you. And so you can go and be like, why is there a disrupt? And be like, oh, because this happened and this happened and this happened in this life. And you're holding these energies towards Sam, or you have this much negative energy towards her subconsciously. Right. And then you can kind of clear some of that stuff out, and it starts to help and it helps with a ton of different things, which is like super fascinating. Like, for example, I had a Reiki student I was working with, and I send pendulums to my Reiki 2 students because it's a tool that I teach them how to use. Mm-hmm. And when she was sitting there, she's like, it's not moving at all. And I was like, huh, that's weird. And then I just heard SRT and I was like, oh, well, we're doing a mini SRT session. Let's figure it out. And I was like, oh, you have blocks to healing. You have blocks to using tools to heal. Like that was the biggest thing, was that she blocked herself from using tools. And when we researched it, it kind of went back to about 6. I mean, there's usually a lot more than just like 1 or 2. It's usually just one main program that has like programs that are replicated or similar to that program. So once you clear the one main program, it kind of clears the energy of all of them.
Gotcha.
So like sometimes it's contracts too, right? Not just programs.
100%. And so this woman, she had, been killed in many lives for using tools to heal people. And because of that, she created like a justification program or a benefit program to not be able to use tools in this life so that that wouldn't happen to her again.
To protect
So,
yourself.
So the
yeah.
pendulum thing is super interesting too, because that is a very real thing. So for anyone who is like playing around with the idea of using pendulums, like it's really fascinating to explore because some pendulums I have found they're like don't want to work with me sometimes. And so
Right.
I'll have to like switch the pendulum. Or sometimes it's like the pendulum, whatever crystal the pendulum is made of, either isn't the same frequency that of energy that I'm channeling through as I'm working with it. So like sometimes like one time I cracked one on accident or and it's like you have to find one that sort of like matches your frequency and also that is willing to work with you. And things like old like past energies or programming blocks, it's a real thing. Like sometimes they will not move.
Sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
super fascinating because the lady that I learned SRT from was basically, if your pendulum isn't working, you have a block. It has nothing to do with your pendulum.
Oh
And
no,
Oh,
I've
I was
found
like,
that
interesting.
if I
I
switch them, it
found,
works.
well, see, I'm completely the opposite because stones are, living things. They have a
Right.
frequency. And I have found like I have certain pendulums that will not do SRT. Like I have a certain pendulum for Reiki because it only like, and I try to use other ones and it's like, no, I'm not going to really work for you. It'll work, but it's very small.
Right.
It's like the
Mm.
movements don't really move. And so sometimes, yes, I find that my stones tell me what they want me to do with them.
Exactly.
And like sometimes I'll have one that was for Reiki and then all of a sudden it'll just be like, nope, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do this instead. And it's like,
Right.
oh, so I have
Mm.
one for dowsing. I have one for energy work. I have, like 2 or 3 for my SRT charts. But honestly, I only use one that I've just bought specifically for SRT because I was like, I need a new one because these don't really want to do this.
Can you
Which is
explain what an SRT chart is?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, basically, it's a series of papers that have they're like fan charts almost. So the very first chart that you get is this program chart. It's basically here, I'm pulling it up right now. So it's basically a chart that you go to, and it shows like high self, angels of light, masters, council of seven, high council, like Holy Spirit, God, infinite council, like all of the different levels of people or things on the other side that are here to help you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we use it to begin with to like clear ourselves out to see who we are working with. So we always with SRT, because we're working in the Akashic Soul Records, we only want to work with our high self or our spirit. Like we don't want to work with our council, our high council. We don't want to work with angels of light because it's kind of like getting a plumber to do an electrician's job. That's just not what they do, right? Everybody on the other side in the other realms, they have a job, right? It's almost like a business on the other side. Everyone has their specific jobs, like guardian angels guard, right? People who are in the high self committees, they work in the Akashic Soul Records and like the subconscious programming and things like that. And so we make sure that we check who we're working with, and if that's part of it. And then the
okay, can I ask a question?
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm going to ask a bazillion questions because I'm like, whoa. So,
please do.
So you're working with the pendulum over this chart, and like, let's say your council is present. Do you just tell them to go away and like
go away?
Basically, yes, basically, but not in like so many words. You're just kind of like, hey, high council, I really appreciate that you're here, right? But unfortunately, we're doing Akashic Records and we need to work with the high self and only the high self. So
Got it.
We ask that we only work with the high self for this moment. We appreciate you and thank you for what you do. But like, this isn't their job. So it's like, sometimes they just want to come in and help, right? Because they're like, oh, I'm going to help you. It's like, well, this isn't really what you're supposed to be doing. So kind of, you got to go back to work. But thank you, so yeah, basically that's what we do is say, well, I'm going to keep clearing until I'm only working with high self. Right. And then again, we check who are we working with, high self or spirit. Perfect. Let's move on. And in that same chart, there's an inside of the circle and there's an outside of the circle of the fan. And the outside of the circle basically gives you charts numbers 1 through 32, because I have 32 different pieces of paper. And if anybody's like super interested in like looking at this or reading about it, Robert Dietzler, he actually has 2 books that he wrote, and they're basically, it shows you, it goes through the whole thing and explains to you what SRT is, and all the charts are actually in the backs of the books. I don't know what the first book is called, but the second one is called Soul Recreation. It's sitting on my table. So the charts are kind of in the back if you ever wanted to check them out. But anyway, so then you say, okay, are there programs? So like maybe it's you and you have an SRT that you are doing with me. I would say like I would clear us both. I would get us ready to work and then connect to our high selves and our high self committees. And I'd make sure that like all attachments and interferences are gone. And then I would say, are there programs that need to be cleared? And it would say yes or no. And so then I would say, okay, what chart is the program on? And then it'll point to 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 32, right? And so then maybe it'll go to 4, which is programs, and then you go to chart 4 and then you ask, is this the correct chart? They'll say yes or no. And then on chart 4, it basically you say, okay, what's the program? And so then there's like imprints, which could be something that somebody said that imprinted in your soul, and so now you believe that you're not worthy of love because your parents said something when you were in the womb. And you now believe that you don't deserve love, right? So you could have blocks to love because of something that somebody said that imprinted on you. You can have inheritance programs that just come down through lineages. You can have benefit programs of like self-punishment or justification or protection. You can have like past life programs that are just still running that haven't been cleared out. And so, I mean, there's parallel lives, there's, future lives, you have past lives in different dimensions. There's all these different places that you can have programs and stuff. And so then you ask, okay, well, when did this program start? And usually it'll give you a list of like in the womb, in a past life, in Bardo or at birth, and then you
ask. Is that list that you receive, is that actually on one of the charts, or do you just intuitively?
No, it's all done on charts. We don't intuitively do basically anything.
It's all like my next question. Awesome. Yeah, it's so interesting.
It's all very like specific. And so like, for example, like maybe I go through and you have say a benefit program that's a self-punishment program and it started in the womb. I'll ask, well, does it have past life roots? And if it does, usually it does, because normally, unless you created it in the womb, but for the most part, normally if it like happens in like before you're born, it's usually connected to a past life. And so like, great. Okay. How many people were there? 2, right? Who was Ellen? Ellen was a mother. Right? Who was the other person? A brother. And then I go to a second chart and I'm like, okay, was it a mother of like a religious figure? Was it a mother of a family? Was it a mother of a Catholic church? Because those are like the 3 main situations, especially a long time ago, like Catholic and spiritual churches were huge. There was a lot of angst and things that happened over religion, in the last couple hundred years. And so then you find out exactly who they were. And then you're like, all right, was there harm? Was it mental, emotional, physical? And then you find out if it was mental and emotional, did it lead to an early death? Did it cause suicide? Right? Or if it was physical, was it simple? Was it serious? Was it death? Right. And so then you find out and then you ask like, who was harmed? Who did the harming? And then you have to go to a different chart then, which is like just energies. And it basically is like, all right, well, show me what energies we're holding. And it can be bitterness, alcoholism, hate of women, health abuse. You could have like brain damage, like somebody said you were stupid or that it could hurt you. And so maybe you believe you have brain damage. So you know what I mean? So you have all these like terror, stinginess, like selfishness. There's all of these energies that you can be holding from whatever happened in that life. And if that soul dies and doesn't clear that, it just kind of carries on to the next life. And then you hold these energies, right? And
this is really interesting because like, tell me if I'm correct in this kind of metaphor or analogy. What you're describing is almost kind of like if we were talking about this life and the trauma that's held within the physical and energetic bodies, right? Like it sounds to me like it's the same thing but happening at a soul level.
Yes.
Okay. So it's like it's trauma work, but like on a soul level rather than on a
life. Yeah.
On a human level.
It's more about like a subconscious, situation. We're routing around the conscious mind and going directly to the subconscious and tapping into your Akashic records for the most part and going through the records and like basically saying, okay, are there like maybe you have somebody at the God level, or at like one of the higher levels of, soul creation, because again, it's like almost like I was taught it's like an office building, right? You have maybe God is an actual God. It's a bunch of beings that do God-like work, right? It's a job. And so maybe you have somebody on that level that has decided to block you because of something that you had a contract with this person to block you in this physical life because of, X, Y, and Z. So then maybe you have to go in and be like, hey, guy up here in this platform, why are you blocking this person? Let's not block this person. Well, let's let it go.
Do they ever say no?
Yeah, sometimes because it's not finished. So if the contract's
Right.
still in
Oh,
progress, you can't clear it.
right.
It has to be figured out. And this, I don't know why I feel like I need to say this, but it's funny because they say, don't work on unborn children, because if somebody's in the womb and they came and they have like, say, 3 programs, and you go ahead and clear those 3 programs for them before they're born, then they're like, well, I don't need to be here anymore.
Right.
I'll go back
Mm-hmm.
and get new programs and then come back again with a whole set of new stuff because you just cleared all the things I was planning on clearing in this life. So
Right.
you
Okay.
got to kind of be careful with like clearing certain things or
Mm-hmm.
certain, like babies, especially.
How do you know if it's something that you need to work on? Like, what is the difference between working on trauma in the physical realm and working on trauma? I'm just calling it that. Like, working
Yeah,
on
yeah.
trauma at the soul level, like, are there signs or something that people can look for? Like, for instance, like, most of us here, like Sam and I clearly have been doing so much inner work over the past 4 years since leaving our careers. Is there something that indicates like, oh, I really need an SRT session rather than
Yeah,
like,
that's
Like
a
an
great
energy
question.
healing or something
right,
else.
right, right, right.
Yeah, usually like I find that if you just want a healing, like it's not necessarily that. Like maybe you and Sam are having like hardship and you're like, I don't know why I can't get over this. Like I'm annoyed. Or like, for example, I had a guy I dated and it wasn't very long. It wasn't anything crazy, but I was like, oh my God, like I cannot let this go. Like
Mm,
my brain space won't let it go. And I'm like, why do I keep thinking about this? Or why is it bothering me on a physical level? And I had done clearings and energy work. And I mean, you name all the things I did to heal it. And it's still, I
mm-hmm,
would randomly like kind of pop up. And so I was like, all right, I need an SRT. I need to clear whatever energy it is between me and this guy. And the lady
mm,
ended up telling me like, oh, well, I had 1,099 lives with this person, and he was part of like 95% of them. Where I
fascinating.
was a religious
Okay.
figure or in a religious kind of sector and, was healing people and was harmed for healing people. And he was part of that. And because we didn't release that energy, and that's why I'm guessing that's why we came in this life together to clear stuff. And because that didn't happen, I could still feel it. So, I mean, I
Okay.
don't know if that answers your question exactly,
Yeah,
but
it
I find that
reminds
if
me.
you're like, oh, I can't let this go, then it's like,
Right.
let's see what's in the subconscious mind, because your conscious mind kind of blocks you when you're
Right.
working
Right.
in the physical 3D, right? So your ego gets involved because it's like, I got to protect you. I'm not going
Right.
to let this be released. Where we go, SRT just kind of goes around the conscious mind and taps into the subconscious. So it's like pure subconscious.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of soul regression, like in
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
hypnotherapy, except that it's like more methodical.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it's crazy because there's so many different parts to this that you can tap into. Like there's a chart that goes to archetypes and it goes to inner child. And you basically start at the beginning and say, okay, what are the programs, what age did it start? Who was it? And who did what was the block? And so you basically just make a giant chart of every single age that your inner child had some kind of a block to it. And then you go through and you like clear the inner child and all of the blocks between, when you were born and however old you are now. And you kind
Mm-hmm.
of go through and clear all that kind of stuff out. Or like archetypes, maybe your creator archetype is blocked, or it has things blocking it. There's just so much to it that it's like, it's just so intense.
Yeah,
I
and the
mean,
charts lead you there, right? Sorry, Al.
Yeah, and that's
no,
the
that's
thing. Like
okay.
the chart tells you exactly where to go. So I mean, like maybe for example, you only have past lives that need to be cleared, and then your SRT is done. Maybe Ellen, has archetypes, and maybe she has programs that happened before creation, like before she was born. Maybe she had programs
Mm-hmm.
set up. Maybe you have miscellaneous blocks because you have a curse on you, or you have like a genetic belief from like this area. Sometimes you need color healing and it'll take you to the color healing chart. Maybe you need blue frequency. So there's
Mm-hmm.
so many parts to it that it cleans out just so much stuff on like so many different levels. It's kind of hard to explain. There's also like a whole list of like elements and minerals. And sometimes it's like, oh, you need, work on your, vitamin A, and be like, oh, okay, well, does she need more? Does she need less? Does she need to change it? Like, and so then you can
Mm-hmm.
use it even to kind of like, oh, my supplements aren't really working. Are these correct for me? And you can like check and say like, oh, maybe I need to change the supplement I'm taking, or maybe I need to, not take it anymore. So you can use this modality for so many different things. Like that one, like the weird chart about the vitamins, you can just kind of do whenever you want to, but it's in there.
It sounds like it does get into the physical realm as well. So this isn't just like at the soul level, you know?
Yeah, but it is kind of, because it's starting there, right? And so it's kind of hard to explain.
No, it's really interesting. Okay, so my next question then is going back to what you were saying about, you shouldn't work on unborn children because they come into this world with certain programs or things that they need to essentially clear in this lifetime. So I guess my question for you is like, in doing this kind of work and realizing that a lot of the programs that I've cleared through, the various things I've done, they were all meant for me to essentially come into this, this knowing of what my life purpose is to do here on this earth in this particular life, like being a journey work guide or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
If I instead went to an SRT, do you call yourself a therapist?
Practitioner, yeah.
Practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with you to, essentially clear out some of these programs. Do I still kind of arrive at essentially the gem or
meant to go?
Yeah. Am I sidestepping something in, do you know what I'm saying? Like, sorry,
yeah,
I'm not asking very well.
Not really. Because your goal here, like say, I mean, when we come to Earth School, it's like Oxford, right? There's so much to do. So it's like, especially us, we've been doing this numerous times. So we don't come here just to like clear energy between you and Sam. Like you came here to do like 190 things, right? And
Right.
so maybe some of those were you needed to like randomly meet me so that we could clear energies that we had from a past life, and like, maybe you needed to do certain other things, or you have blocks to certain things, which is why you're having a hard time maybe using a pendulum, and it's just causing frustration in your life. When if you could use that pendulum, it would make your soul's purpose a lot easier, right?
Got
and
it.
so it kind of helps to clear out negative programming, any kind of blocks, any kind of like past lives, any subconscious blocks. It can be any kinds of things that are just causing hindrance or dissonance in your life now that need to be cleared. It can also really easily help to just get rid of a lot of that stuff that your soul's been carrying around that it doesn't need anymore. It's kind of like when your phone's open and you've got all the programs running, and all of a sudden your phone's running really slow and you're like, why isn't this working properly? And it's like, oh, because I have 75 windows in Internet Explorer open. Like maybe I should close some of those,
right,
so that it functions better. That's kind of what happens with SRT. We kind of go through all of these things that are causing dissonance and chaos because they're just energies that aren't really helping you anymore, right? They're from past lives or parallel lives, or from other things that aren't pertinent necessarily to this life. It's just the baggage that you're bringing with you. And yeah, part of those, maybe you have contracts to do like something with someone specifically, and you don't really need to do it anymore because it's done, but you still have the contract because it hasn't been cleared. So it's almost like just a big giant cleanup for your computer almost.
Yeah, it sounds like you're debugging. It's like
Basically.
debugging and like clearing out unnecessary code, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think the tech thing really actually speaks to me because
I was like, that makes sense.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, you can also have like triggers that happen. So like maybe you loved the ocean and you swam all the time until you were 8, and then you were super afraid to go in the ocean. And you're like, what the hell is that? Well, maybe when you were 8 in a different life, you drowned, and then it triggered that energy from that life. And now you have a fear of water, right? Or a fear of flying. Like it's really great for people who have fears of things, like people who are afraid to fly or afraid of animals, or people who have allergies. I've found that, I'm allergic to horses because I was killed by a horse. And I have programmed myself to not be around them anymore because I don't want that to happen again, because that energy is still in my soul. Right. Where that doesn't help you in this life, especially if maybe you live on a farm. Like Why would you, you know what I mean? So it's just causing a little bit of a problem in this life that's not necessary. And so it kind of just like it's a giant cleanup basically for stuff that doesn't really serve you anymore. And then it
Hmm.
gives you like more opportunity to heal the other things that happen. And then you'll of course have triggers that'll bring up energies from other lives, like when you meet new people or when certain experiences happen to you, you know, it'll be like, oh yeah, remember all that stuff that happened, you know, 7,000 years ago, you know, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, that kind of, yeah, that makes me think about too, like how sometimes there are people in your life who come in for just a season, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like you
Hmm.
had a contract to do a certain thing in this life and help each other grow on a soul level, and then they're gone. But then, even though sometimes those contracts may be closed, they may not be gone. Or even though you did what you set out to accomplish, there's still like lingering cords and connective energies that can be cleared to like help you
Right.
just like fully move on and step into the
Yeah.
next phase.
It's kind of like sweeping out the dust that's settled after, you know, construction outside. You know what I mean? Like you clean your house, you clean
Yeah.
your house, you clean your house. And then like there's still stuff there that just needs to kind of get out of there that's not really helping you at all.
Yeah, I'm starting to see the difference because it's like if I relate it to like, you know, the big I would say big trauma of my life is like losing my dad early, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that is it's that's not really what SRT is for per se, but the lingering grief that I felt that I
Mm.
couldn't shake for whatever reason,
Yeah,
that is what I
exactly.
would come to. Okay, okay, that
Or, you know,
makes
like I've gotten into a fight with a friend of mine and I'm like, I have a lot of like negative energy towards her. So I can be like, okay, how much negative energy do I have towards this person? Like 80%. How much positive do I have towards this person? 20. Okay. Are there programs that need to be cleared? Yeah. Okay. What are the programs? Then you can go through and be like, oh,
mm,
okay. And then you can clear the energy that you have with a person. Cause a lot of times your reactions to things are based on, you know, soul traumas and, you know, belief systems you have and experiences that you have. And so if you can clear out all of that energy from those experiences, it changes how you react to things.
Right.
I t-
Interesting.
okay, that makes sense to me. Okay, so let me throw this example out at you too, because that totally makes sense for me. Like, okay, let me. I'm trying to think if I can think of like an actual like example. Um, okay, so like 2021, I experienced a ton of judgment. You know, like I think the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic was happening. Like so much of it was in the air, and I think just even based off of like our north and south nodes in astrology, collectively speaking, judgment was what we had to really get through. You know, I think it was Gemini
Mm-hmm.
was like one of the nodes, but it came up through the vaccine, it came up through the pandemic, all these things around judgment, and I had to really sit and work through what it meant to live through my head versus live through my heart, or like make
Mm.
decisions through my head versus making decisions from my heart. And through all of these interactions where I butted heads with people, particularly with my husband at this one point, you know, like got into like this major fight. um I it's almost like I in hindsight looking back at that, like I had to go through um that fight, or that, you know, that friction, that you know, the clash, in order for me to realize like, oh, I'm totally just trying to argue and logic my way out of this, and logic can't fight other logic because many truths can exist. So I need to
Right.
really drop into my heart and live from that place and move from that place. But had I not had that experience, I don't think I would have received that like wisdom or that lesson. You know, so I guess what I'm asking is like, I could have gone out of that situation, like had this huge fight with my husband, been super pissed for days, gone to, you know, let's say, you know, I go to you for an SRT session, and whatever needed to be cleared, you know, was cleared. But would I still receive that lesson? Would I still receive that wisdom?
If you were supposed to, it would still happen because
Okay.
it would still be in process, right? It would be in progress.
Gotcha.
So it wouldn't get cleared because it's happening currently. It may be a construct that's still happening in that moment. But also we as souls, we don't, like, when we have these programs and these things that we create,
Hmm.
we did it for a reason. And so sometimes we put them in many levels. So you can have
Mm.
a trauma that lives in your physical, your mental, your emotional, your etheric, your akashic. And then you can make
Hmm.
copies of it and replicas and put it all over your records in different parts of your records so that you don't forget it. Right. And so you have
Hmm.
different, so I always am like, oh, I've already healed that. No, you're doing it again. It's like, how am I doing it again? And it's like, oh, because I cleared it out of my physical the first time. Okay. The second time I worked on it, I cleared it out of my mental body. Okay. The third time I actually worked on my energy field and I cleared it out of my energy space and my, my grid system. So we
Hmm.
sometimes as souls, we're sneaky. We're like, oh, we gotta store this in 20 places so that in case we delete 19 of them, it's still there. And so if
Gotcha.
you're not supposed to like get rid of it, it will not go away. It
I
has to,
see.
but we accumulate positive and negative energies based on our beliefs, experiences, and choices. So like if these don't get clear, they just kind of like stay in your suitcase. And then eventually your suitcase just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. Right.
Mm,
And so this is just a way to kind of lighten up your suitcase. But
that's
everything that you're
super rad.
supposed to still be doing, if you have contracts with people and you're supposed to learn certain lessons, like you created those, contracts or bullet points of things to do. I look at it like school. Like you have your core classes and then you have all your elective classes and then you have like all your fun stuff that you do. And it's like, okay, well, your core classes, like it doesn't matter what you do, you have to take them. Right. So I
Hmm.
can clear you
Hmm.
and clear you and clear you. But if those are the main things that you're here for, like that's what you're here for. Like, and
Right, right.
unless you do what you need to do that thing, it's still there. So it's really
Gotcha.
more of like the fun extra curricular stuff where like you've just accumulated all these extra things and now you have too much stuff that's not really helping you just get rid of
Hmm.
it. And then that way you can focus more on your core stuff because
So
you don't
then,
have all of this other dissonance or these other like things happening to cause.
right.
Right.
So so in that scenario though, go if Ellen had decided to go in for SRT, like it essentially like what would clear would maybe just everything you could clear would maybe clear the sting out of it or some of the extra triggers around it versus like taking the lesson away.
Right. So like
Okay.
maybe you had all that judgment and you were like, God, so you got an SRT. So then now when you go back to it, your like reaction kind of changes and you're not as judgmental and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then you can be more curious about it because you're not reactive, right? Because
Right.
emotions are
Mm,
energy in motion. And so
right.
usually when you have a trigger and you start feeling things, it's the way to clear it is by moving that energy. And so like it can cause all kinds of chaos. And then we go into ego because our energies, we're like, they're attacking me. So then ego kind of gets involved. So
Mm.
this
Right.
kind of helps to separate that a little bit because then you're not as reactive because you're like, oh, I get it. Now, why is that happening? Oh, because I had this happen, this happened, this happened. That makes more sense to me now. And now maybe I can look at it a different way and learn the lesson without being as reactive
I see. Okay.
or
That makes a
emotionally
lot of sense.
charged.
Right,
Right.
right.
So I mean you learn lessons all the time. I mean, and if you want to, because I thought the same thing too, because one of the first times um they cleared, I think it was like 5 or 7 contracts I had with my mom passed away when I was 25. And so
Mhm.
like she was like, oh, you guys work together and I know that she's with me all the time, but then like I freaked out a little bit thinking that my mom was going to go away because she cleared all the contracts we had together. That didn't happen.
Mm, mhm,
She's still
mhm.
here. She's still with me because that's not the big contract. Like she's here and we have a contract to do certain things together. And yeah, we had like, say, maybe we had a book of contracts, maybe we had 50 and we're still working on 20 of them, but we're done with the other 30. So let's get rid of those. Let's make some space
Wow.
so that maybe then you clear that and now you have more room for more things, right? So now maybe you're like, oh, well, that's gone. So let's also add these 3 extra contracts because I don't have to worry. The rest of them are finished, right?
I see.
Mm.
It's almost kind of like you're not fast forwarding, but you're kind of expediting and making your human experience in this lifetime a little bit like smoother, where you can
Yeah.
kind of do a little bit more because you're getting rid of like excess shit that doesn't need to um it's like periphery stuff that doesn't really need to like slow you down.
Be there, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just stuff that's done and finished. So it's like get rid of it. Like they say, to do like if I don't have anybody to work on, I ask to be assigned to somebody who has either just passed away or is passing away, because then I can clear them so that they're not taking all the garbage from this life with them to their next
Mm,
life. Because
wow.
you have all these experiences that give you these energies that stick with you, right? And so like maybe
Right.
me and you were brother and sister and I was totally terrible to you as a kid. And so you have this hatred towards me, right? And like, we don't get along, and you don't do energy work, or maybe you do and you tried to heal it, but you still have like subconscious energy holding towards your brother. And so then you die, it's still there. So all of the things that happen in this life create energies in your soul, and they kind of get stuck with you. And if you don't take the time to sit and clear them, like, you know, you do, and Sam does, and a lot of like healers do, it just stays there. So, I mean, you're doing a lot of the work on different levels too, obviously, and you're clearing out a lot of that stuff, which is kind of the same thing in a sense. But if you pass away, all that energy that you haven't cleared is still there. Or even maybe the energy you didn't know was there. That's a big thing, because subconsciously, you don't know what's happening in your subconscious. You only know what's in your consciousness. And so you can think that you've cleared all your programs out between like you and a person, but there's still subconscious things running.
Can you clear somebody who's on the other side?
Yes, I do it all the time. So like if I don't have somebody to work on, I ask for them to assign somebody that just passed away, who is in the transition period. And then I clear them so that when they start their new life, they're not holding any of the energies from this life.
Oh,
How about
really
somebody
love that.
How about somebody that's been passed for you know, many years?
Yeah, I mean, you could tap into them, and if, you know, you ask, you use, you know, if you have permission from them, then yes, you know, I always ask with the pendulum, like, can I clear this specific person? Maybe they've already incarnated, and, you know, they don't want to be cleared, and it's, you can't. So I always ask for permission, and, you know, like I tried to clear my brother one time, and he wasn't ready for it, and the pendulum was like, no, you can't do that. The only thing you can do is give him blue frequency. And I was like, oh, okay. So I gave him blue frequency, and that was the end of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but now I've been working with him, and he wants to do like a different healing. And so I was like, oh, now that he's in a place that can have a healing, then maybe we could do this. And it would be from his, you know, he would ask for it. Like if you're not asking for it specifically, you have to get permission for any kind of energy work. Obviously, you don't want to tap into somebody's subconscious records without their acknowledgement, or without them, you know, giving you permission to do that.
Right. Okay.
Wait, can you do this on animals?
Yeah. You can do it on all the things, I would imagine. I mean, I'm still pretty new in doing this, so I don't like know all of like the minute details about it. I'm still trying to figure it out, but it's super cool.
Yeah, it's so vast.
Like I said, just even seeing, you know, the difference in the like 10 minutes I did with my student who couldn't use the pendulum. And as soon as we were done, the pendulum started working. So it's like, okay, well, we just needed to clear the blocks to you using pendulums. Perfect. You know, now let's move on.
I'm curious, can you have contracts with non-human beings, or is
100%?
Okay.
And you could have had past lives on different dimensions where you weren't a human, and you have soul energy from being like, I don't know, a blob in a different dimension. You know what I mean? Like,
okay. So that brings me to my next question. I'm curious, like, cause I mean, obviously we're infinite, right? But how far back does this clearing tend to happen? Like, are you clearing literally from like eons ago, or are you also like, has that ever happened in your sessions where you go so far back? Or is it more recent? I would say like recent past lives.
So when Robert started this, like if you read his book, he goes into like super detail, and he asks like the most obnoxious questions, and he gets the whole entire story, right? Like, what year did it happen? How many people what were the lives? How many lives were of this exact thing? You know, and he goes through with like all of these things. Now, since it's been happening for a really long time, and people have kind of perfected it. Now it's kind of super simplified, and it's just like, we don't need to know that. We just need to know what the energies are so we can clear it. Right. So it's a lot more like condensed and simpler, but you can use it to find stuff like that out. But it really just depends on what programs you have and what your intention is and what you're trying to clear. And it's going to go back to the original picture, right? If you had, like, for example, the one where I had 1,099 lives, like, that obviously started a long time ago, because you know, if I had that many lives and I lived until I was 20, 40, 10, who knows, like that's a couple years per life, you know, that's now going back thousands of years. So it really kind of just depends. It can go back to like the soul level. So it can go all the way back to when you were being created as a soul. So like maybe in the
Wow.
level of like soul creation, you put up a block to yourself to learn how to do something specific. And if you don't learn it, that block stays there kind of thing, you know? And so you could, or you can have blocks from people who helped create you. Like you have soul programs that started, there's like levels. The way I was taught is that, you know, like in the first 6 levels, it's just kind of like a sign. This is the structure. This is the way it is. These are the things you need to have. And then you have like, that's like, again, you're like your core classes, right? And then you have like programs and things that you can choose and go through and be like, all right, I'm going to do this and this and this. So as you're creating yourself as a soul, you can have blocks on the God level or blocks on the I am level. And so you can go all the way back to when you were created originally and clear out
Mm.
programs or energies or, you know, any kind of interference. It also sometimes will take you to discarnate energies. Like maybe you're somebody in the God realm or somebody in the high council got bored and they didn't want to do it anymore and they wanted to see what it was like to be human. So they came down and like kind of infiltrated your space and are like riding along with you because they want to experience human life. And it's like, hey, you're not allowed to be here because your job is up there. Like, you got to go. Like, why are you here? So then sometimes we find that you have ride alongs or discarnate energies or different things that are like connected to you that need to be cleared out too, that are like stuck in your subconscious.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that, like, also makes me think of like, you know how you can incarnate in a life and then because of free will, it's like for whatever reason, maybe you got in a car accident, you died as a child, but in that life you were meant to, you know, fill out all these contracts. Then you're just carrying around an extra trauma.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the things that they mentioned during one of my classes was, you know, like maybe you had programmed yourself to have a car accident when you were 4, but we did an SRT clearing and cleared whatever that program was that would have caused you to have that happen. And then that didn't happen. Or maybe you were supposed to die at 10 and that was like your soul plan. But then we cleared that contract and that energy of why that was going to happen. And now because of that, your life is now you're 25, right?
Oh, I
So
see.
you can kind of like clear some things that help you to kind of progress, right? Instead of like being like, oh, I'm only here for 4 years. Like, well, what was that program and things that needed to be cleared? Oh, well, can we clear them with the SRT? We can.
So,
Cool. So that's not a problem anymore.
so in that case, though, then you would be doing SRT on children, theoretically.
Yeah. Yeah, you could do SRT on kids, technically. It's really more about like in the womb because then
Mm.
that person might have a miscarriage and then that baby is no more because the baby went back to soul level to start over again, right? And then
Mm.
because of
Mm-hmm.
that, they're picking new parents and they're picking, you know what I mean? And so now they'll come back differently. So the only thing, like, don't work on children in the womb with SRT specifically. I mean, I wouldn't say that with all energy work. I work on babies in the womb all the time. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I
And
know. I do
because
too. I
they're
love
just
it.
so powerful. Like, and there's like, you get such clear like idea of what you need to do and how to do it and stuff because they're like super like this is what's got to go, this is what we got to do, this is why I'm talking to you, you know.
But then in
But it's
theory,
really
though,
more about if you know they came here for something specific.
right.
Huh?
So, but
Mm-hmm.
then in theory, if you could inadvertently create a miscarriage by clearing contracts, if you were to work on a child whose contracts were to come here and then you cleared too many of them, couldn't you, like, wouldn't that adversely affect them as well?
I mean, I don't think that they'll let you do that
Okay.
necessarily. Like, it's not gonna kill. It's not gonna like someone's not gonna die because you cleared their programs. If that
Right.
makes sense.
Okay.
Like they're not going to be like, "Oh, peace out," you know, or maybe they decided to, but maybe that was part of their journey, and they were like, "Oh, I'm only going to be here for 15 years," and I clear all the programs out when they're at 12, and they're like, "All right, well, I'm done anyway, so I'm going to get out of here a couple years early." I mean,
Got
it
it.
may
I
change
see.
things slightly, but I feel like if everything that I've heard from like testimonials and like examples of things, it's really more of the opposite. Where if somebody had planned to like leave this plane at age 7 and you clear whatever the reason was that they had to leave that, like maybe it was because them and their mom had other energy that needed to be cleared and you clear that. So now he doesn't have to leave and cause that energy happening because it's done. You're not going to like end somebody's life there. You know, it's just that what I've seen is that if anything, like maybe your mom and you had like some kind of thing you had to work out and that you were supposed to pass, and that was the energy that needed to be cleared. But if you clear it ahead of time, then it's not necessary for that physical thing to happen anymore because it's been cleared. And so then you can pick up new programs or new um, contracts or new things and work out other things that your soul was planning on doing instead of just like kind of ending it, if that makes sense. But
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know 100% for that. So like, don't take my word fully on it, but I don't think that it's going to just cause like any like negative things, because I don't think it would allow that to happen, right? Because this is all done for like the greatest good of the soul and for the best intentions. And so if it wasn't already set to be that way, it's not going to be that way, if that makes sense.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it kind of makes sense too that if it was like a baby who hadn't been born yet, it's like you're you're affecting the incarnation process, whereas if you're working on a child, they're already incarnated.
Yeah, they're already here. And so they already have work to do. And so maybe, like I said, they were supposed to pass at 4 because that was a lesson that them and their mom had to like deal with. But if it's something that you can just clear because it was from a past life that's not really necessary anymore, they can be like, oh, well, I don't have to leave at 4 now because I can now pick up these extra classes and do this and that and this and that and this and that instead of going back and reprogramming and reincarnating and doing it all over again. You can just keep going.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how SRT and your Reiki practice are different, or how they even align, and how you work with them together?
Yeah, it's actually super fascinating now that I've been doing SRT. When I'm doing my intuitive energy healings, usually I'm kind of like, hey, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I've tried to like be like, I'm going to do this, and that never ever works. And so they a lot of times will just show me what needs to happen and how. And so like I might be in the middle of an energy session working on your throat chakra, and then all of a sudden like I get this feeling of, oh, there's a contract. Oh, okay. And then I, of course, am curious. And so I like use my mind as a pendulum, or sometimes they'll just show me the pendulum in my mind's eye, which is super interesting because I am clairsentient. I see things in my mind's eye. And so sometimes they'll show me the charts and they'll show me the pendulums like in my head. So I'll be like, oh, I'll be like, you have contracts, and I'll hear 7. And I'm like, oh, there's 7 contracts. You know what I mean? And so like they'll give me the information sometimes during an energy healing when I don't have my charts, and I end up clearing things like through SRT without it, which is super weird and kind of like strange to me. But I'll see the pendulum spinning or, doing certain things. And then I'll be like, all right, what program is it? And they'll tell me, they'll be like benefit. I'm like, oh, okay, there's a benefit program. And then I'll be like, when was it? And then I'll see the past life sometimes is what's been happening with me more. So instead of like going through the charts and them telling me like, you were this person and it was that person, I'll see the life and I'll see it like as a movie as what happened. And I'll be like, oh, okay, this is what happened. And then I'll be like, what energies? And I'll just start getting words kind of like pop into my head. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's almost like my brain is doing the SRT like as like a clairvoyant thing sometimes, which it just kind of started happening. And I don't question it.
Yeah, it's like you open those channels and now it's like just one more way your higher self knows they can work with you.
Exactly. But then sometimes like I feel like I need to do the chart work. So I had a lady who I've been working with pretty regularly, and she called me and she's like, well, I'm gonna have to do virtual. And it was after like I was getting ready to leave for work, and they were like, take your charts. And I'm like, I'm not taking this giant binder with me to work. And they're like, take your charts. And I was like, okay. And then she called and she's like, oh, we're doing virtual. And I was like, perfect. My charts are here. I don't have to take them with me. And I was like, now I understand why. And it was just, we had to do an SRT through the charts because there were very specific things that needed to be cleared that they weren't going to show me in my head. But if I'm in the middle of a session and like maybe there's a past life programming that needs to be cleared, they'll show it to me sometimes.
I see. That's super handy.
Yeah, right?
The bleed over has been kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, oh, wow, I can do this without actually holding my charts. Like, oh, rad.
That's so cool.
But it's little pieces of it. It's not like a full clearing. It's just like, oh, we need to tap into your Akashic soul record and get rid of this discarnate energy or clear out this block that you have real fast. You know what I mean? But a full energy clearing with SRT is just, there's so much to all these different charts, and there's so many different charts that it's like I said, it can be archetypes, it can be past lives, it can be that you had before your creation, you had pre-programming, it could be higher level blocks, you could have high level belief systems, you can have like all kinds of crazy stuff that you need. And there's just so much to it. It's kind of hard to explain all of the different pieces of it.
How often, how do I even structure this question? Like, how often should somebody do SRT if they're kind of like, like, I guess, how often do people come to you specifically for SRT? Especially if you're working through a lot of, it's like you're kind of defragging and debugging and, like, can you debug and defrag forever, or is it
Yes and no. So I mean, like once you've defragged and cleaned up stuff, it's gone. It shouldn't come
right?
back, right?
Right.
It's done. But again, like maybe you have a trigger for when you turn 29 and you meet this certain person, it triggers now another 100 lives that you've had with that person, or other belief systems that you had, or so now you have like new set of stuff that is maybe
Right.
needs to be cleared. So like with me, what I did is I made a big list and I was like, all right, I have TMJ, I have dog and cat allergies, I have like a not so great relationship with my brother. I have, you know what I mean? Like, so I made a
Mm-hmm.
list of random things that I was like, okay, I'm going to work on all of these things. And then I asked, do I have programs in regards to this? Yes. Cool. Let's work on it. Right. And then once it's cleared, it should be gone forever, you know? And so
I
I do
see.
it that way when I kind of, or I'll do people, I'll be like, all right, I want to clear me and my physical brother in this life. And I go through my family members and just do a session per family member and be like, all right, they're obviously my familial unit. They're here for a reason. That's why we incarnated together. Is there other garbage that needs to be cleaned up? If so, let's
Mm-hmm.
clean it up now. But honestly, like when I get them done, now that I do it myself, it's kind of exciting. But when I used to get them done, it would just be like super random. And sometimes I'd even call my shaman. I'd be like, should we do a shamanic healing or an SRT? And then she'd be like, well, what do you want to work on? And I'd be like, well, this. And she'd be like, yep, let's do an SRT, you know, or she'd be like, no, that's not really SRT work. Let's do more of an energetic shamanic healing or like a soul retrieval, you know? But yeah, once it's cleared, it should be cleared forever unless you have another trigger that brings something like that back up. But then it's technically a different program or a different energy. I mean, it could be the same energy, but a different situation or scenario.
So
Right.
I can't come to you and just be like, clear me. Like I should
You
have
could.
like a
No, you
okay.
could 100%. And then you'd be like, I don't know, but I want you to do an SRT. And I'd be like, cool. And then I'll start at the beginning.
Your high self would tell you.
Yeah, high self. Does Ellen have any
Okay.
programs that need to be cleared? Sure. Great. Tell me what chart they're on. Okay, I'm gonna
Got it. Okay.
I'm gonna go to chart 1, and it could be like, oh, your guardian angels are blocked. Oh, okay. Like, or there's blocks to this, you know, or you could be like, oh, in all of your levels of soul consciousness, is there a being blocking you? Is there a program blocking you? What body of consciousness is it in? And where is it being blocked at? Can we clear that out? Right? Do you have energy parasites? If so, can we clean them out? You know, so it'll tell you exactly where to go. So if you have no idea, you can be like, all right, that's what the charts are for. They kind of like take you through exactly where and when and how you need to do things. So you can have master programs, you know, soul consciousness programs. Maybe you need colors, you know, maybe it's food diet stuff. Maybe it's programs that were created by your spirit. You know, it can be, there's so many different levels, but it'll show you, it'll tell you. And if there's no programs, it'll just say no.
So in a session, basically, is it like an hour, hour and a half with you?
They're usually about an hour-ish.
About an hour. So
Yeah.
essentially you're just clearing as much as the hour will allow.
Yeah, I like to do a thing, especially because it's kind of hard to be like, oh, people are paying for a certain amount of time and they need to get at least that much work. I make a big pact to just be like, all right, spirit, we're going to do a clearing. We need to do whatever we can do in 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the parameters for take as long as you guys need on that side in 60 minutes, human time, you know? And so I always say like, or let's do a clearing that'll be about this time. Right.
Okay.
But also if it's done beforehand, what my shaman would do with me, she'd be like, all right, do you guys have any questions? Because now we're connected to your high self. Right. So if say you got 15 minutes at the end, you're like, all right, well, all of those programs have been cleared. Is there anything you want to know? Oh yeah. Why am I angry about this? Oh, let's see. Oh, there's a program connected to that. Let's clear that now. Or you can ask it yes and no questions because we're directly connected to your high self. And so now we can talk to your high self directly. And so a lot of times it's like a question answering at the end, especially if there's extra time, you can then go through like, what else is there? And I'll be like, oh, well, there's this. Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Is there something there? Sure. Cool. Let's clear that too.
Okay. This is a really silly question probably, but if I am able to connect directly to my higher self through meditation or, you know, trance, whatever, can I just work directly with my higher self and run through my list of like, you know, allergies and, you know, kind of like the list that you had just made for yourself? Is that possible as well?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I mean, you can tap in, if you can tap into your high self during meditation, then yeah, you should be able to do a lot of this work with your high self. You can be like, hey, high self, I got, you know, do I have contracts? And you might get a yes, I get 12. You know, I've seen with people have been clearing and be like, all right, while doing energy work, I'm like, okay, because I know about it now. And so I can access that. So I'll be like, oh, somebody was having an issue with a person, and I was like, oh, are there contracts? And I saw like a book of contracts, and I was like, oh, can we get rid of these? And it's like, yes. And then I was like, can we get rid of all of them? It's like, no. Well, how many are left? 3. Oh, okay. So let's clear all these contracts out. And then we have these 3 that are still in progress that need to be worked through. Right. And so if you can tap into that, then yeah, 100% you're accessing basically what we're doing with charts.
Yeah.
Most people can't get into that space. And at least if they get into that space, they can't stay in that space and then start thinking at the same time. You know what I mean? Because once you start thinking, then you're in ego, and then you're not being 100% neutral, and your ego is kind of bringing up. So with the charts, it kind of keeps you as passive as possible. So and if you start getting weird answers, you're like, wait a second, what percentage of ego do I have? Oh, I'm at 5% ego. Okay, let's clear that. Or what percent neutrality am I at? Oh, I'm only at 80. Okay, well, maybe it's because ego is getting involved, and now it's not a clear channel to high self. So doing it with the charts and the pendulum kind of take out the possibility of your ego getting involved. It makes it more passive.
I see.
A lot of people have a hard time connecting to that, and then clearing and asking questions, because then you start getting involved in the emotion of it, or you know what I mean?
Especially when it's on your
human self. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I don't
exactly
ever
why
do this.
Healers need healers.
Exactly. Right. And I feel like it's like massage too. Like you can massage yourself all day long, and it's not the same as when someone else is doing it, because you're not 100% passive.
Right.
So there's like, it's harder to work on you when you're not passive, whether it's, mental, emotionally, or physically.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, this is super amazing. I don't want to speak for Ellen, but I feel like I can safely say we're both so curious about this and super excited to dive in more and to explore more around spiritual response therapy, because it's just like the possibilities truly are endless.
Yeah, I'm booking a session for sure.
I just hope I did it justice for any SRT practitioners out there that have been doing it for years and years and years and listen to this. They might be like, what? Hopefully I explained it well.
It came through in the way that it needed to for us and our audience, for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we like to sort of close out the interviews by asking what is one piece of wisdom that you really through your experience of working with this modality have carried forward with you? Is there something since working with SRT that you feel like, oh my God, if I could share this with everybody, that you would want to talk about?
Is that our souls are sneaky and our egos are tricky, and our subconscious mind is like, I am not letting go of these things. And so to find out that your body will make, or your soul will make, copies and replications of programs and put them in many places is fascinating to me, because I was like, oh, I've already healed my road rage and it's done. It's like, no, it's not, because it's stored in 17 different places, because your subconscious was like, we can't forget this. So if I didn't know that, I would have been like, oh, one and done. And then I would just keep questioning, why do I get angry when I do this still? I thought I healed that. Right. And so to know that your body can make copies of these programs and store them in multiple places just makes me realize wow, there's a lot more to healing than just healing it one time and being finished with it. Sometimes there's a lot of levels to it.
Yeah, that's a really great point, because it's we always talk about how the work never ends. It's you just go deeper and deeper. And so that's such a great reminder. Thank you.
Yeah, because you get frustrated when you're working on things and it doesn't clear, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? And then you start turning it on yourself, and then you start getting all of these programs from why you're not adequate, and it's oh, it's only because I made 25 copies of it. And I only cleared 6 of them.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's so true. So can you share with us, for our listeners who would like to explore spiritual response therapy with you and book a session, where they can find you?
Yeah, of course. So my website is holistikunalome.com, and on there you can book directly through there, and there's a bunch of videos, and my other podcasts and a bunch of little interviews and stuff are on there. So if you wanted to kind of listen to this again, it'll be there. And you can book right through that system automatically. Obviously, you're always welcome to call me or contact me. Jamie Harb is my name. If you Google me, you'll find me on Yelp. Also, if you look at Holistic Unalome in general, you should be able to find me online. And Yelp, always feel free to text me. I'm not one of those people who is like, I don't want clients to call me. If you have questions, text and call me. You can always book through me directly or on my website. So that's an easy way to do that.
Jamie, thank you so much for teaching us about this. I'm so excited to
Seriously.
explore more. We so appreciate it, and we can't wait to see how this progresses.
Yay! I'm
Yes.
so excited. And thank you again for having me on your show. This is such a magical opportunity. So I really appreciate it. And I appreciate
Yeah.
the both of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always.
I'm so texting you for an appointment right now.
I can't wait.
So rad.
Music for Woo New is composed by Adam Miller.